guys, welcome back to another episode of Wade's Garage. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a honest review, year and a bit of owning the LS3-Swapped 350Z. Stay tuned. So we're just going to go over the basics here of what's all done to the car, and then we'll go for a rip in it, talk about it a little bit more there, things I like about it, things I don't like about it. So basic setup here, nothing major done to the engine other than that it's fully built, forged internals, everything inside is all done up. As you can see, I've kept it pretty clean in here. Wiring specialties, wiring harness. I made a lot of my own coolant lines and everything else. These go back to the heater core, so I still have heat and everything. Upper rad hose, lower rad hose, I made all those myself. Everything that has been done to swap this car in is Siki Manufacturing's kit. I highly recommend their kit because their adapter plate for the OEM trans, it just fits perfect. Everything's slid together perfectly. There's no binding or no issues with that. Their motor mounts are good because they keep it nice and low. As you can see, it's fairly low in the engine compartment. The V6 actually came above this here and wrapped around it. This sits quite a bit lower, like we get quite a bit of room there. This also sits further back, hence to why we have to get a serial 9 shifter relocation. If you guys are doing a swap like this and you're using the OEM trans, I'd highly recommend you look into one of those. They work great. Ported heads, BTR stage 3 cam, trunnion support rocker upgrade so we can rev it a little bit higher. There's no needle bearings in there, so that's good. I don't have to worry about that. Heavy duty push rods, stock intake manifold, nothing too crazy. It's a 6.2 liter LS3, if you haven't already guessed. Puts out about 470 wheel horsepower, and the torque is pretty much right there. There's a dyno video as well. Great numbers for the street. In a car like this, it works really good. It's a lighter car and it's snappy, it's all there. Only thing that I don't like about this setup, if you're running the stock CDO9 transmission, the gears are very, very short. Like first is basically useless. Second is almost useless. They did that because they wanted to make the V6 feel more peppy. And I understand that because V6 obviously doesn't really have as much torque as say a V8 would have. So maybe in the future I'll switch up the trans in it or switch the rear end and try and make the gears a little bit longer and a little bit more fun, a little bit more manageable. Normally I start off in second in this car if I am in an intersection, but it's definitely, the gears are way too short for this amount of power that's in this car. I think it'd be more fun if we change the rear end out of it, but there's not too many options for a rear end in this car to make the gears a little bit longer. You can get an auto rear end, they're a little bit longer, but it wouldn't be justifiable for me to switch over to that. It wouldn't do too big of a difference, so I think I'd have to dive deeper and see what kind of rear ends I could swap into this car or just change the transmission in general. Other than that, like I said, basic setup, kept everything tidy. All these alternator wires and power wires, I utilized them from the stock V6 and routed them to the starter on the V8. And the alternator wire I made myself as well. It's pretty straightforward stuff. I tried to keep it as simple as possible. Kept the OEM power steering reservoir and just ran my line down and underneath, and then the pickup is over here. So I didn't have a reservoir over here. I kind of like the whole clean look over here without a tank on top. You got the fluid damper down there. That's good for vibrations, and when you get up to higher horsepower stuff, it's nice to have that reassurance. Sort of the same thing that I'm doing with the 2JZ here. I got a fluid damper for this engine as well, for the Supra, and then that'll take all the vibrations out and make the crank last a lot longer and all their bearings and everything else. And I highly recommend doing that for a high performance car. So I do have to get one for this car here, and I will eventually, just because it's supercharged and everything. I might switch over to a 10 rib, or right now it's 6. So might bump that up to a wider setup. So let's get in this thing, go for a drive, and talk about some of the things that I dislike about it and what I like about it. Spider webs on this thing. Haven't driven it in a while. So with this car, I've really focused on, I don't know if you've seen it in my last videos or not, or if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, let me know what you guys like about the car, let me know what you guys think I should have done with the car differently. I'm always open to inputs or ideas or advice or whatever. I'm always up for learning. What I mainly focused on with this car is that everything worked as factory. That was a huge thing for me. Oil pressure gauge works as factory, volt gauge. Everything looks OEM on the dash. No engine lights, no weird things like that. Right now you just got a light on for the e-brake. Seatbelt light, everything all works as factory. Got my other gauges here, my air fuel ratio, my oil temp. Those are pretty much everything that I think that you need for this car. I went through this whole car with doing everything to the V6. I did everything possible bolt on, like cams, headers, like everything, and I only got like 270 wheel horsepower with it, and I spent a crap ton of money on that V6 to make it fast, but nothing wrong with those V6s at all. I absolutely love them. They feel great in these cars, but it was time for a change. So we decided to go with the LS swap. So everything feels pretty good. This is the Serial 9 shifter. Very, very close together. I wish it was a little, like it felt a little bit more OEM, but it's very, very tight just due to the bushings and everything that they come with those shifters. But the gears are very close together, so if you don't really know what you're doing, it's very easy to money shift with this, and that's not a good time. So stage 3 clutch in it, stock seats, stock interior. If you were looking at this, it would look like besides these here, a stock running 350Z, which is what I wanted. Factory traction control. If you hit the button down here, see, traction control's off, and then you click it and it goes back on. That's a huge plus in my books too as well. OBD2 port over here with a cover on it. That's for the PCM tuning, and the OBD2 over here is for the body. So if I need to scan for airbag codes, I still have the body control module stuff, and then PCM stuff or ECU stuff is over on the right for tuning and everything else. So let's get this thing warmed up and let's go for a rip. I don't know if you guys can tell, but this thing is, I love the way that this thing lopes and idles with that camshaft. Feels really good. It's just swaying the whole car. For a tight car like this, for it to start shaking, you know it's a good time. Like I said, this car, literally, despite the sound, it drives just like stock, which is what I like. Another thing too with this car, it literally handles the exact same, if not a little bit better, due to that engine being a little bit lower in the car. It's set further back. The mass is actually set further back and under into the tunnel here. Scientifically, the mass is lower in the car, so it's going to handle a lot better than what it did with the V6 even in it. So that's a win in my books too as well. Everybody always asks, well, how much more weight does this engine have than the V6? This is not a 6-liter, so it's not a cast iron block. It's an aluminum block, 6.2. So I believe that the weight difference between this and the V6 is, I think, about 20 to 30 pounds difference, which is not a very big trade-off for the power ratings that this car has. It feels just like it did from factory, which is awesome. Obviously, minus the fact that it has about 200 more horse than what it did before. That's in the tire, but that just makes it a fun time with this car. We're just about warmed up here, and we'll get on it a bit here. This is second gear. or fourth gear with this car and you lean into it and then ascent's just walking. See how easy it is to whip a donut with this thing. That never gets old. That's awesome. Goosebump check. Sounds so good too. It reminds me of a Corvette. It sounds identical to it, which makes sense because it does have an LS3 in it. Oh, those downshifts are awesome. One thing I focused on too as well is to make sure that the brakes work really good in this, and they do. Got good pads, Brembos. This thing moves real good. I still get goosebumps from that too. That's how you know you're having fun with the car, is if it gives you those goosebumps. The drivability of this car is super good. Like, we're just cruising right now, and you can't really hear the exhaust too much. It's pretty good. It's comfortable. It's smooth. It does everything that I want it to do. Nice thing about having a V8 in it too is if you're in fifth gear and you want to pass someone, you don't have to shift down to like third or fourth. You just lean into it. All the torque. We're in fifth right now. And you can just feel it. It just takes off. Like, it literally just instantly. Here's second gear. So as you can see, it's a pretty fun car to drive around. All in all, if you ever are going to do this swap, it's definitely very good for drivability, and it's definitely very street friendly and everything, but just keep in mind that it's not going to be exactly like the stock V6 that's going to be in this, drivability wise and everything else. Drivability is excellent in this, but like I said, it's louder. You're going to run into a few problems here and there with it. It's obviously, since it's not factory, there's going to be things that can go wrong, things that you need to look out for, things that you need to put heat shields on, things that you need to clearance, and with this setup, just to make everything work and prevent anything from happening, like fires or lines wearing through or rubbing or whatever. So keep in mind when you're doing this swap, just don't overthink it, but look over some stuff, be like, that line's gonna rub through here, let's protect this. It's better safe than sorry, because you know what? When these things light up in flames, and or you're gonna be a sad person when you're on the side of the road and things up in flames, and that is why I have a fire extinguisher in there, because it did not come like this from the factory. So you have to keep that in mind, that things can go wrong, and they're projects. It's just the way that the car hobby works. All in all, I'm absolutely very happy with that I decided to swap this car with this engine. This has got to be the best platform, I think, for this car. I was going to go Pro Charger on the V6, but this is, in my opinion, much more custom, more up my alley, something that's a little bit different. People like it. Who wouldn't like an engine swap? That concludes today's video, guys. I'm gonna go for ripping the Supra. Park this one for now. Let me know what you guys want to see more with the 350. If you have any more ideas that I can do with it, then feel free to drop it down in the comments below. Hit the like button if you guys enjoyed some 350Z content, because I sure did. As of for now, guys, talk to you later. Check you in the next video. Peace.